Instead of forgiveness, I have an alternate idea that I think both Democrats and Republicans could get behind. The U.S. has over $1.5 trillion in student loan debt. Student debt is, of course, a controversial subject. Love a little controversy. There's been a big push by the Biden administration and other advocates to forgive a certain amount of student loans. When the Biden administration first started talking about it, they talked about $50,000. But now it's around $10,000 that's being thrown around. So I think it's safe to assume that the government is going to throw some money at this problem. The main idea floating around is student loan forgiveness. The main discrepancy is how much they want to forgive. I don't think that student loan forgiveness will truly solve the problem. It'll just delay and waste a ton of money. Instead of forgiveness, I have an alternate idea that I think both Democrats and Republicans could get behind. Compromise! Remember that? The facts are this. We have a student debt crisis and the government wants to throw money at it. So in this hypothetical, I'm the lucky sucker who gets to allocate the money. Now that I've said all that and put on 3 more pairs of jeans to cover my backside, let's get into it. First, we'll start off with current rates and a scenario. And then we'll talk about why I think that student loan forgiveness won't really work. Then we'll talk about my solution and we'll compare that to the exact same scenario. Then you can make an informed decision. Most of the people who I talk to who have student loans have an interest rate between 6.5 and 8.5%. The technical average for both federal and private loans is 5.8%, and so we'll be using that number. Another big issue is the term called income-based repayment. While this is honestly a very good thing for people who are not making a lot of money, how can they make a $3,000 payment when they only make $2,000, for example, it's still a big part of the problem. We'll go over an illustration to explain more. Let's say you go to veterinary school, and it's fairly expensive, so you have to take out $275,000 in debt. Now, if we say pay this over a 10-year period at 5.8%, the monthly payment would be about $3,011 per month. With an average starting income of around $75,000, we have to take taxes out, so let's just say it's $60,000. Now you're making $5,000 a month. That's not so bad. But when you take out the $3,011, you're left with just under $2,000 a month. And that's for everything. If you're the main breadwinner, you still have a family. If you don't have a family, guess what? You still have a house and car and everything else. It would be pretty difficult to live on that. And so you set up an income-based repayment plan. All should be good now, right? Let's take a look at the numbers. You now have a payment that's only $711 a month. That's not so bad. You can handle that. And it also turned into a 25-year loan. But guess what? Let's see when you make a payment of $711 on a loan of $275,000.
This is where the money dies.
So, a 25-year loan at 5.8% with a balance of $275,000. The interest on the first payment alone is over $1,300, and you're paying a total of $711. Let's think about what happens with that. The loan gets bigger. At the end of year 1, the loan is over $282,000, and at the end of year 5, the loan is now up to $317,000. At the end of year 10, it's over $375,000, and at the end of 20 years, it's literally over $553,000. You haven't even touched the principal. Do you see where I'm going with this? Now let's say the president and Congress decide to wipe out $50,000 of Jimmy's loan. I've decided Jimmy's the vet. Thanks for taking care of the animals, Jimmy. Sorry about the debt. Now let's see how much they've helped Jimmy. Here are his new numbers with the forgiveness. Jimmy now only has $225,000 in student loans. Yay. And his first month's interest is only $1,087. Yeah, because he's on the income repayment plan, he's only paying $711. And this won't even cover the interest. Yeah, I don't think this is going to go well for Jimmy. Here's how the numbers would look like with $50,000 forgiven. At the end of 1 year, the loan is now $229,000. At the end of year 5, it's over $251,000. At the end of year 10, it's over $286. And at the end of year 20, it's $394. And Jimmy still hasn't paid a dime of principal. Throwing $10,000 to $50,000 at this type of loan is only slowing down the inevitable. Student loan forgiveness is not helping this person. It's just pulling them halfway out of quicksand and saying, "You're welcome," and then walking away while they go back to sinking and die. Overinflated childhood fear. My alternative solution that you've all been waiting for? Lower the interest rate. Lower the interest rate. Let's look at the exact same income-based scenario with Jimmy, who took out $275,000, except at 1% interest. At the end of year 1, it's down to $269. At the end of year 5, $245. At the end of year 10, $214. At the end of 20 years, the loan is down to $147,000. Do you see the delightful little pattern here? The loan is being paid down, even with the income-based repayment. Imagine if he can pay extra. That loan will be paid off much faster. Lowering the interest rate would be a benefit to anyone with any amount of student loans. I know I gave you a big scenario. Just take off the zero. All the numbers are the same. Look at them again. And I believe it's a compromise that both sides could get behind. If you believe in student loan forgiveness, while we're not forgiving any of the dollars, we are forgiving the rate. This will make it faster and easier for anyone with any amount of student debt. And if it's large, it won't balloon forever and possibly destroy somebody's life. And if you believe that people should pay for the debt that they get, well, they will be. We are not affecting the dollar amount, we are just lowering the rate, making it easier and faster for them to pay, while they're still honestly and responsibly paying for their debt. Compromise! Remember that? So instead of debt forgiveness, let's lower the interest rate. While it's not as fun and explosive as forgiving student debt, I think this is a solution that could benefit everyone. They're still paying off their debt, but the rate is becoming lower. I think this solution would help so many people with student debt. Like I mentioned, I know a lot of people with student loan debt that's over 8.5%. Imagine how much faster they'd sink in that quicksand. Let me know your thoughts on this idea. I know there's a lot of nuance here, and it is a fairly complicated subject. One thing I didn't mention was that when you get on that income-based repayment plan, oftentimes it's forgiven after 20 or 25 years. There's so much wasted money paying interest. And it affects the taxpayer, especially at the end when they have to pay this huge lump sum to pay it off. If you're curious to know what the numbers would have looked like with the debt forgiveness in that first scenario, after 25 years of making that payment, you would have paid $213,000 in interest only. You wouldn't have touched the principal at all. At the end of 25 years, the government would then pay almost $700,000, which is the balance of the missed interest and all the principal that was left. And oh, by the way, it's a taxable event. The government sees that as income. Merry Christmas from Uncle Sam. You get to pay us taxes on that $700,000. So please share with me what you think I got right, what you think I got wrong, what you think I missed. I think if we can have an open discussion and dialogue about these things, we'll be so much better off. And if you're worried about how much the government is spending and all these different things, you can check out my video on inflation. I'm Saeed with The Money Innovator. Let's change the fight into a dialogue. Do you see the delightful little pattern here? The loan is going down.